All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome back again. We are interviewing with Mike Marlin today. Hi, Mike.
Hello, Taylor. Hello, everybody out there in wherever you are.
so,
Probably home.
the way we like to start these out, Mike, is just having you tell us about your position at the Lincoln. So, what your position is, and then what it is that you actually do around the theater, which for you is a lot.
Yes. Well, one of my jobs is, what do you call it? Well, I'm the production manager, and I'm also the facilities manager. So I manage all of this space over here with the lights and the seats, fixing seats. That's my facilities. Production management is working with performers and groups and artists and individuals coming into the theater who want to set up an event for their organization or what have you, their musical group. And I work with them to adapt to the facility at the theater with our abilities of lighting and sound and stage work. And sometimes there are limitations, and sometimes there are ways of pushing the envelope. So I like to make that happen for people so that they have a wonderful experience when they're producing a show here.
Yeah, your job is like a lot of us are just kind of 9 to 5, and your job is kind of all day, every day,
Yeah,
weekends. You're always there.
I'm always there. Well, not always. Roger's there a lot more than I. But I do find myself there in crunch time, in production time. And that includes some of the work that I have to do with the facilities and keeping it organized and clean to prepare for people to come in. And once people come in, then they have as much time as they require or need to get their production up to the level that it needs to be.
Right. Yeah. Well, and my favorite part of what I get to watch you do is that you're also the preservation side. So
Yes.
a lot of the history stuff is you going through and fixing these little things, and I love talking to people about how we're part of that historic register, and so how we have to make sure our updates are look like they came from the 1920s. And so it's always my favorite part of your job is seeing how you're doing things so that it's done in a way that it still looks like it came fresh out of 1926.
Yeah, it's you want to be able to keep up with the technology, but also to uh, uh, work within the like how they built things back then. You can imagine
Right.
they didn't have like skill saws and electric drills.
Yeah.
I use those, of course, but certainly with the plastering and the lath plaster, and a lot of the trim boards that I use are repurposed from other parts of the theater. So the wood, like when we did the wood floors, I found the tongue and groove fir flooring that was originally used that had been
So cool.
built into other parts of the theater spaces
Yeah.
that weren't being utilized. So as much as I can, I like to reuse what was already the materials that were already there.
Supernatural.
Yeah.
I love that. How long have you been involved in the theater? So not just your current position, but when did you first come around? You have the double side of you work there, you also perform there. So how
Mhm.
long have you been involved with the Lincoln?
Well, I moved to the Valley in 1997, and I think the first production I saw, my sister was living up here, and I had a niece, and she was in a production called Fish Tales or something, a little play produced by a couple that had started a children's theater that eventually became to Northwest Children's Theater, which finally became Meta Performing Arts.
Oh,
So I have kind of
fun.
a very long history with Meta Performing Arts
Mhm.
as in their inception, and
Wow.
was kind of what me and my wife Maura were kind of one of the founding. core members of that.
Mm-hmm.
So they we saw one of their productions before we got involved, which was a Christmas pageant.
Mm.
And we thought, wow, these guys would love to have us involved because we both done theater. And
Uh-huh.
so back then, there was no lighting structure. So up here, where these lights are, the chandeliers, we would drop the chandelier down and bring down a lighting pipe down here and hang lights from the ceiling there and
Wow.
run individual wires. It was just, there was not much to work with.
Yeah.
And and our sound system at the time was a karaoke machine uh, with a home stereo with microphone
Oh
inputs.
no.
Unless we had somebody come in who, like, we would rent gear from a sound person
Right.
for
Wow.
concerts and things.
Well, how many years do you think that is then that you've
Well, that
been
was
around? It's been a
20
long
years ago.
time.
20 years ago.
That's wild.
The first movie that we saw at the Lincoln was Shakespeare in Love. Uh,
Nice.
yeah, and had a date night at the Lincoln. And so after that, I got involved with the theater groups,
Yeah.
designing theater sets and setting up lights and everything, plus acting in them as well.
Hmm. And then you just never left. Just held on
Never
to you.
left. Yeah, yeah, it was, just like I was received with open arms. And that's one thing I love about the theater. That the
Yeah.
people that come there, I feel very welcome and humble
Hmm.
to have them there.
Yeah. I interviewed Peggy and we had a great conversation about how much we missed everybody just because everybody gets along so well and it's such an open family type of thing that we have. So that's why it's fun to get to do these. I'm excited that I get to interview everybody.
Yeah.
So aside from that, what is your favorite thing about working at the Lincoln?
Um, well, I think that I have uh, a type of personality that likes variety. And because the Lincoln does film, they do music, they do community events. It's always something new and different,
Hmm.
and I just love that. It helps me to stretch my creative abilities and my technical abilities um, and also my cooperation uh, abilities.
Yeah,
It's a big cooperation where there's no major, leader that demands this is how this is going to go.
hmm,
People have all their ideas that they come to the table with, and a lot of times you just don't know how it's going to come out, but everybody has this. Um, there's frustrating times, of course, but to
yeah.
solve these problems, it's always a team
Yeah.
effort.
Yeah, it's wild how many things we tend to be doing at once. I mean, we have that, maybe we'll put it at the end of this video. We have that video where we had the 3 events in one day, and you get to watch that time lapse of our new sound systems going in. And then we also have a wedding, and we have something else, and we have something else, and just constantly moving. And
Yeah.
but it is, yeah, you definitely have to be a little bit creative, and you're constantly doing something, always
Well,
changing too.
that's the one thing I like about the theater and the variety. And my job there is that I get to sort of craft the mechanics
Hmm.
of the theater to make those transitions easier to transition from one event to another,
Yeah,
and it has become a lot more efficient
for sure.
because of
Yeah.
this work and everybody involved.
Yeah, it's
So
relatively seamless. I mean, I don't think many people realize quite how much is happening all at once to make it seem so seamless, but it's very impressive. So on that vein, what in your time there, since it's been quite a long time. Obviously, so much changes that you've seen.
Yeah.
What structure change or update or preservation, any of those types of things, what most impacted you in your time there? What was your either favorite change or something that changed that you felt really put us forward as a
Well,
theater?
yeah, I've seen a lot of changes,
Yeah.
uh, but I would say the one most simplified, significant change was when they installed the steel grid with the drop-down movie screen.
Yeah. I don't even think about how there was a time when that didn't exist.
So before the drop-down movie screen, there was a full screen panel that didn't drop down or anything, but was on a beam that you have to push across upstage to push to the back wall of the theater, of the stage.
That's crazy.
And in order to do that, they had these large speakers that were the size of commercial refrigerators with large horns on top that you had to move out of the way and then push the screen back. And that process took a couple of hours at best
Yeah.
to make a transition.
That's
You know,
amazing.
and
And now
so
it's a flip of a switch.
yeah, just hit that
That's
switch and
wild.
down comes the screen and up goes the screen, and that in itself made all those transitions like
Yeah.
so much easier.
Yeah, I can't imagine a world where it's not quite that easy. That's insane. I'm sure that, yeah, that would have made everything so much more difficult.
Yeah.
What is your favorite show or event memory, anything in your time there?
Well, most recently, the Valentine's show with Quinca, and
Yeah, that was fun.
that's my like most recent favorite
Yeah.
because we sort of reached this sweet spot as far as the live music where you had a
Hmm.
local band that was really popular and it brought in all ages and they were dancing and it was just a lot of fun. I'm just still happy
That was a
about
great one.
that kind of
Yeah,
show now.
absolutely. Oh,
So
that's
there's been
such
a
a,
lot of great shows. But
that's a
the
good
one
shout
that
out to Kawinka too. We love
absolutely, you
them.
guys did it right. Yeah. So one of the most unique shows that lives in my memory happened probably in about 2003. And it was Cinco de Mayo time.
Mhm.
And Vicky Young, she was a program manager at the time, invited the scissors dancers of Peru to come and do a production, a show. And they are a dance. It's a ritualist. They call it like kind of break dancing, where they throw their bodies like break dancers and spin on their heads and do all these things, while they're clanking their scissors. These scissors that are not connected. They're like llama shears, metal.
Yeah.
So while they're
What?
dancing and doing these flips and turns, they're clanking these shears,
That's
and
wild.
they were just so amazingly different.
Hmm.
And at the time, we still had our footlights exposed on the apron on the stage, which
Yeah.
was they were just like white, red, and blue light bulbs that were kind of exposed and had like a wire mesh over it. The fire department, was that wouldn't fly.
Yeah.
So they were like hurling their bodies on the stage while they were doing these traditional dances that they all like learned from their fathers, and it passed down for generations from
Yeah.
generation. And this culture and this dance predates the Inca invasion of Peru. So they had this ancient like ritual dance that was like a competition. So
Yeah.
each dancer would compete as to who did the best, gnarliest move. And
Wow.
yeah, and so it's just hard to describe other
Y-
than it was amazing. And
Yeah.
as far as getting a flavor of a really unique cultural uh, dance that just was extreme.
Right. That you
Was
might not have
amazing.
seen otherwise. That's
Exactly.
incredible.
Hmm.
I've never even heard of that. I'm gonna have to check that out.
It's a fascinating you know culture.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
amazing. What is your dream show or live production or event? Anything, like if you didn't have money wasn't an issue or
Mm.
timing wasn't an issue, who would you want to see on the Lincoln stage or what?
Ah, yes. Well, I love circus performance, and I love uh, like sculptural art that is, as a set designer,
Hmm.
and something that's unique. So at one time, I heard that there's an artist who strings up this giant harp across the whole like space and does acrobatic stuff while like imagine like so here's the picture of the theater, right?
Uh-huh.
So you would have this whole like giant strung up harp that goes all over the tops of the seats and through the theater, and there's an artist who's like plucking these giant strings that are going and into a sound box toward the stage, while there's uh, like aerial artist performers around and stuff. So,
That sounds
but
awesome.
yeah, I love visual, unique visual creations like Cirque du Soleil often produces.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh,
and
that'd be fun. I'm
I
into
have
that.
I have connected with the Bellingham Circus Guild for potential like events where we
Good.
partner
Yeah.
with
That
circus
sounds
people.
amazing. Get
And there's a
people
lot
just
of
flying from rafters.
yeah.
Oof. Love it.
Hmm.
That's a really cool idea. If you could spend the day with one famous person, either currently living or already deceased, who would it be and why?
I think it would probably have to be Buster Keaton.
Yeah, you do like Buster Keaton.
I do. I feel he died on the day I was born, so I think that I may possibly be the
Oh,
reincarnation of
I'm
Buster
pretty
Keaton.
sure you are. I didn't know that. That's definitely a possibility.
Although I don't quite have the stone face, but I am very much inspired by um, his art.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Oh, I'm just gonna start calling you Buster. I'm convinced. What is your favorite film?
My favorite film, well, I have several um, that have impacted me visually, and one of them is Koyaanisqatsi,
Never heard of
and
that.
it is a visual time lapse photography with Philip Glass doing the music.
Wow.
And it came out in the 80s, in the 80s, yeah. And it also has chanting from the Hopi Indians, and it's just very moving imagery.
Hmm.
It doesn't have a story other than it. It shows Koyaanisqatsi is a term meaning life out of balance, and it shows how our modern world um, reacts with the natural world
Hmm.
and the changes that had happened. And I think it really illustrated with speed photography the way humans have changed the planet,
Yeah.
and that was even back when the planet was still in pretty good shape.
Right.
So
Wow.
it was just one of those films that I saw, and it just left a big impression on me
Hmm.
because of the photography and the music and the overall message. It didn't have a story, it wasn't something but there were definite images of people's faces, of people of what from culture, various cultures
Right.
who you would just kind of look into their eyes, and the photography would be slowed down, or it might be a monk who's walking in very slow motion and still, while everybody on the street's just running around very fast around him, and he's just taking a very slow walk
Hmm.
while the speed photography is zipping all around, and
That's wild. That sounds
love that
amazing.
kind of stuff.
Okay, and then last question. Have you ever met Eldon, the ghost?
Yes, actually. When I first started working there was quite a bit of chaotic mess down in the basement, and a group had come through and done a kind of a sweep of all of the flotsam and jetsam in the basement, and I was working at the time as restoration specialist slash stage manager, and just being there because the groups were uh, coming through and preparing, just like I do still do.
Hmm.
But then it was the building was very decrepit and not restored. And there were periods where like I saw this dust cloud kind of spin out from the little office, what
Hmm.
was the
What was the
office,
office, right?
but now it's like the little dressing room, the
Right.
nice dressing room that you
Yeah.
can't write on the walls in. And I felt that presence then.
Hmm.
Yes, and so um, I got out the shop vac and started vacuuming. And at that point, I felt like I was like the Lincoln Exorcist.
Yeah. Was it the backpack one? Because that
Nope,
helps too.
it was the yellow like R2D2 one.
Yeah. Oh man.
So yeah, and I do think I cleaned out a few spooks, spooky things
Yeah, hopefully just all the bad
over
ones. You got
my
them
time.
out that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I got most of the bad ones. Yeah, and
That's
Eldon,
good.
he's not so bad.
No, he's not too bad. He's
No,
not too bad at all.
yeah.
Oh gosh. Well, that's it. I love ghost stories. They're my favorite part of all of these interviews is I like getting myself freaked out so that I have to walk through the basement by myself and be a little spooked. But thanks, Mike. This was awesome.
Yeah,
Um, we appreciate all of the work that you do that keeps our theater looking as beautiful as it does now. I mean, I can't imagine it looking any other way. So thank you for all of your hard work. Um, and we can't wait to get back in there and get back to work. It'll be soon.
yeah, me too. Yeah, okay. Okay, great. We'll see you at the theater.
Okay, thanks, Mike.